So this morning's guided meditation, we talked about natural meditation, or I guided in the form of natural meditation. In Zen, that's called shikantaza, and it's a kind of fascinating type of meditation in that, well, there's paradoxes around it. So first of all, it's exquisitely simple. In fact, it's the most simple type of meditation. In fact, it's so simple that it's not even meditation really, because there's no technique, right? On the other hand, many Zen teachers would say that it's actually a kind of advanced technique. It's an advanced way of meditating. So why that paradox? Well, the way I would say it is, the reason there's that paradox is to try to actually do nothing, to try to not put your finger on the scale of experience, to try not to monitor, judge, control experience is like, it's just impossible at first, right? Early on, if I remember the way my mind operated before awakening, like I know I would have not been able to do it. If you would have told me, just sit there and don't have an objective, don't have a goal of any kind, and whatever comes up, there would have been no break in the thoughts. The thoughts would have just continued on past that point and incorporated what I just heard into a stream of thoughts. And I would have never realized how much effort I was actually holding to keep that stream of thoughts going all the time. So what I'm getting at is, the mind-identified human, the thought-identified human, actually spends a lot of effort staying mind-identified. That we spend a lot of effort staying in this inner world of before and after, of right and wrong, of self and other, and really just an endless dialogue with yourself about your life and what's happening in your life and so forth. Now, people have variable experiences in how aware of thoughts they are. Sometimes people are so identified with thoughts they don't know they have thoughts. Other times it's like you're more experiencing the state of awareness apart from, and so noticing thought after thought. And that's all mindfulness really is to kind of take that first step from being just totally identified with thought all day long and not knowing it, to actually stepping back and noticing the thoughts themselves. But the reason I pointed that out is effortlessness itself is a kind of fruition. It's not really a practice so much as a fruition, especially early on. I could put it in a sort of neurophysiologic context, and that is that the brain function, our nervous system, to survive, actually, we have to be able to have certain patterns of processing that continue on, even though they take a kind of effort, they continue on as a sort of momentum unless something interrupts the pattern. So things like vigilance, or actually not moving. So to physically not move actually requires a kind of neurologic input in our brain to suppress movement. So there are all these different neurologic patterns that keep a kind of momentum going in various aspects of our physiology that allows us to function. But in thought, it's something like that, in that without realizing it, we'll be putting effort in quite often, actually, to keeping our attention very narrowed, keeping a kind of hypervigilance going without fully realizing it, of actually pulling ourselves somehow away from emotion, from intense emotion and intense experiences, and using thought and analysis to do it. Like, all of that will be going on, and requiring effort without our notice at all, without us even noticing it. So again, if someone were to have given me the instruction I gave this morning about shikantaza or natural meditation when I was 18 or whatever, before I learned to meditate, certainly before I had an awakening at 24, I know what would have happened. I would have heard the words, but they would have just been incorporated really quickly into the thought stream that was an endless stream of thought, analysis, self-reflection and so forth. And there would have been no meditative experience. There would have just been a different, say, flavor of the conceptuality that I was just addicted to or stuck in or bound to without even knowing it. So it wouldn't have happened. Like the meditation wouldn't have happened, essentially. That's my experience. Now, some people may find when and it's probably people who are just kind of energetically more clear, maybe more awake, more present to begin with, they may find that when they hear this instruction of shikantaza or natural meditation, it kind of works for them early on. And it may work if you hear it as a guided meditation or you read it in a book. Like in my book, I have a section on natural meditation. However, when you try to do it on your own, it's just slippery. Like you end up getting into your thoughts or just totally distracted and lost in thoughts for 30 minutes straight, which by definition is natural meditation. Like there's no right or wrong to it. And, the two truths phenomenon will tell you that there's the absolute truth and relative truth, and they're not really two, but they can be pulled apart for teaching purposes. And in this moment, I'll pull them apart and say that is not really natural meditation. That's not what natural meditation is about. Although technically it's fine that you sit there and, just think all through the whole meditative time frame, like 30 minutes of just endless thought, identified thought. That's fine. But it's not really the gist of natural meditation. So that's the paradox. When we have some insight into the nature of, well, I should say the illusory nature of identity itself, that would be called an awakening, typically kensho, maybe an I am realization, maybe the realization of that the separate self, the conceptual self, is just not real in the way we thought it was. All of those are different ways of saying the same thing. With that, then we have at least the ability to recognize in real time when attention is not completely bound into thoughts, into endless analysis, judgment, self-reflection, yada, yada, yada of the mind. So now it's kind of fluctuating, right? So typically after awakening, people will recognize that this is the case, that there are times when the mind may be very calm. A meditation may drop very, very deep, and there's just pure presence. Thoughtless presence, meaning there's no need for a thought to confirm how presence actually is by nature. It's kind of just like a fundamentally more real than real experience, right? And it's clear. So there's periods of that, then there's periods of like being lost in thought, there's periods of being triggered, periods of intense emotion, and then you may even notice resistance patterns around emotion. Like it's quite a fluctuation after awakening, where we have all these different levels of identification, let's say, levels of identification with thought. We have these different experiences of being closer or farther to experience, being more or less surrendered to what's appearing. And yeah, most people can relate to this after a shift in identity. And that goes on for some time. In that period, at some point, usually, natural meditation will just click for you. And it may click in a way that you don't even realize that it's what you used to understand as natural meditation or shikantaza. And that's kind of what happened to me. It was like click one day. It was just like meditation was happening all the time. Close my eyes, it's just there. And it's not something. That's exactly what it is. It's not a technique. And it's so radically simple that there's nothing you can say about it. And yet I had somehow overlooked it, right? That just happened. And it was like, oh, and ever since then it's been there. It's been obvious. I can close my eyes and it's just that, right? Now, when that happened, I didn't go, oh, this is shikantaza. I didn't know that. After a little bit of time and looking back over the way people describe shikantaza, natural meditation, I don't know what other people call it, basic meditation or whatever. Then I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about the whole time. That was what they were talking about. I just didn't get it. I was trying to do something, right? So it's not a doing meditation. It's just not. It's natural non-doing. Natural non-doing. It's not hesitant non-doing. Shikantaza. It's not it requires no tension. It's not a tension-based non-doing. It's just the non-doing that's natural. The non-doing that is everything you see, feel, taste all the time. So it is a non-doing, and it's also totally natural. So it's not the non-doing you can do, it's the non-doing that's already happening. That's it. Yeah. So at some point, again, it usually clicks for people. And then from then on, it's like, oh yeah, natural meditation, it's obvious what it is. Even then, sometimes you can maybe dial in a little bit more to read, if you read a clear passage about it, or a little reminder of, you know, what it's about. But it's a distinct meditative experience, let's say. And all of that is just the preamble of what I wanted to talk about, really. I wanted to kind of dial people into what I mean by natural meditation. What I really want to say in this talk is natural meditation is not just not meditation because it's not a technique. It's not meditation because it's reality. If you once you know how to practice shikantaza, once you know what shikantaza is, the practiceless practice, when you know what natural meditation is, there will be a gap, meaning when you sit, close your eyes or keep your eyes open, whatever you do, and it's just that natural meditative experience, there's going to be a gap in your life, in the relative world, between when you can do that sitting and when it's noted to be happening all the time in real time, and you don't lose track of the fact that it's just that, right? So what I'm saying is, it's like at first, natural meditation could only be a thought. That, in my experience, there would have been a time when I could have only turned that into a thought. Then there's a time when sitting on the mat without distraction, right? Putting everything aside, turning the phone off, giving yourself a meditative space that's a protected space, then it's just available, naturally available. That's the next step. And the step beyond that is in the marketplace. And there might be a couple steps there. One step is sort of like when you're alone, but up and moving, pruning the flowers, making food, exercising, doing nothing in particular, moving around, feeling the body sense. There will be a time when you start to recognize, okay, yeah, it's not just a meditative space that brings shikantaza forward or natural meditation forward. It's kind of everywhere, for sure. It's in the movements as well, and the stillness, and in the sound, and in the quietude. And you start to just notice, like, it's the rhythm of reality. It's the rhythm of presence. That's what natural meditation is, right? And always has been, of course. Then the next step, the most challenging step, is in relation to other humans, in relation to interacting with people. One of the most advanced, well, maybe the most advanced sort of skill set, let's say, in realization is your realization stable in interacting with other humans? That's that, because there's nothing that puts you in your head more than interacting with other human beings that are in their head, right? And I think most people here relate to this. Maybe some, it's a sort of new territory, but for most people, yeah, it's clear that when I interact with somebody, right, and we're talking about some topic, some work-related thing, or even an emotional thing, or even a relationship type of thing, like telling stories about ourselves or others. Any of that stuff is very, very heady, actually. And it's really good at actually just putting you into this identified state. To be able to navigate those situations, even the not intense emotional situations, but just interactions with other humans, and stay totally present and realize that natural flow, like I said, the rhythm of reality is also the sounds coming out of their mouth and your mouth and all of it, and the colors and sensation, and you don't lose track of that. The attention doesn't narrow down, and there's not this internal thing of like, ooh, how am I coming across, and what are they thinking, what am I thinking? Like it doesn't turn into a narrowed focus on thought and analysis and internal reflection. Like, it's actually possible to live this way, right? But again, more like advanced, so to speak, meaning you need a lot of clarity before that is that easy. Yeah, so that's kind of the progression. But the gist of what I'm saying is that this shikantaza, this natural meditation that I'm talking about, is really life itself. It's reality itself. Now, it's reality without filters. It's reality without perceptual bindings. It's reality without overlays, without veils. So it's always here. It's always here for us. It's an attunement that's always available. And because we're human and we move in the relative world, and it takes time to really settle the mind and the heart and the spirit and do the trauma work. It takes time for all this to happen. It's helpful at first to cultivate a meditative space for this. Yeah, it's helpful to set aside time and space to sit in naturalness. And with time, that will become more stable. Stable meaning presence doesn't seem to escape you in the myriad situations and when interacting with the world and challenging situations and heady situations. There's still an ability to just recognize the natural cadence of presence, the natural cadence of flow of everything and nothing, of just this, however you want to say it. And this becomes how you live, right? It's just natural rhythms. Feel them all the time. They just that's all this is. It's energetic rhythms, and it's beautiful. It's natural. It feels more natural than anything you ever pursued with your mind. It feels more natural than anything you ever imagined reality was supposed to look like for you, or more natural than anything you thought would be the result of fruition of practice. It's just natural. It's not contingent upon practice. It's not contingent upon realization. It's not contingent upon anything, right? And yet, there's a path. If you negate the path, you could totally just turn this into thoughts. Like I said before, when I was younger, I would have. I would have turned all this into thoughts because I had no other choice. So do be cautious that you don't reify, solidify the idea that everything is just the way it is. That realization is not contingent upon practice or fruition. It's not. And it also is. Relative and absolute, right? It's how this, without the understanding instinctually of relative and absolute and their interplay, realization will halt. Or at least your understanding of realization, your ability to relate through it in all situations will become stunted. And it happens. There's a lot of pitfalls to this whole deal, potential pitfalls. But they all have a similar flavor, the potential pitfalls. And the flavor is fixation. It also, fixation is maybe a more energetic or dynamic description. It also has the flavor of the psyche. It has the flavor of human stuff. What's getting in the way is almost always shadow material. Unwillingness to feel a certain emotion. Unwillingness to totally just let go into the unknown, which is this. It's not the unknown of the mind, though. The unknown of the mind seems like a scary place, right? It's just that this presence, through the felt sense, through the sound and so forth, but let's talk about through the felt sense and the visual right now. It's totally unknowable. It's ungraspable by mind. But it doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean it's not clear as day, clear as the sun shining directly into your face. It's so clear, so simple, and it's always available, intimate, deeply peaceful. But it's not knowable in the way the mind wants to know things. And that's not a lack on the part of presence. It's a lack on the part of the mind. The mind's just trying to turn tries to turn everything into thought. And thought is just a bunch of ghosts. Thought is a graveyard. You don't want, the thought version of presence isn't satisfying, and it never will be. So at some point you have to let go of it and actually realize like you've always been feeling presence. It's always been here fully for you. It's just there's just no story to it. There's no big thing to tell. There's no big cookie to receive from the mind, or in terms of what the mind thinks it wants. There's nothing. There's so many psychological factors that go into why we think we want to wake up, and you have to actually address all of them. One of them is you think it's going to give you some kind of validation or love or clout or attention that you've sought your whole life. Everyone, right? There are a lot of people who look at what I do and think like, oh, it'd be great to do that. Like, You might not want to live my life. Like maybe you would, I don't know, but that's the part of us that says, oh God, if I only had that attention, if I only had that status, that stature, finally I would be safe, right? That's what you're looking for, safety. Yeah. So seeing like, oh, all of what the mind was projecting onto what I think awakening is about, or realization is about, or even life is about, or whatever. All of that was projected from an unseen, well, sometimes it's seen, hopefully at some point you will see it, fear of not having safety. And again, all of that is mental. That's the mind's idea of safety. It's a reflection from early childhood sometime when you didn't feel safe, or maybe you weren't safe. Maybe you weren't physically safe at times. Some people were. Some people did have that kind of trauma where they were literally not physically safe for significant parts of their childhood or certain moments of their childhood, and that's a deep wound, of course. But short of that, we all have had experiences where we suddenly realize like, oh, I could die. Like, you lose a pet or you lose someone close to you and you're like, wow, that could happen to me. Or someone just tells you you're going to die at some point in this life. It scares the shit out of you, right? As a child. Now that fear, it's psychological fear at that point, but that fear just echoes through the chambers of identity for, generation, not generation, but like through each stage of development. And actually it is generational too. Like we inherit this from our parents, their own fear of death, their fear of loss of function, fear of loss of safety. When you see it this way, you'll realize like that the fear of loss of safety is a game you'll never win, right? Because it's fear-based. Instead, just see if it's a problem at all. See if this is a problem. In presence, you will find that it's not. In presence, you're not going to worry about safety or not safety. It's just presence. It's just what's happening. Sometimes it may be conventionally described as safe. Sometimes it may be conventionally described as unsafe. But presence is presence, and it's clear, and it's stable in itself. And it doesn't need anything. And it doesn't project a future. It doesn't regret a past. It's just alive, radically alive. You can live like the tree that doesn't fear its own death. You can live like an animal that doesn't fear its own death. You can, yeah? So seeing that all of the things we fear about losing a self, or the things we fear about entering the unknown, the things we fear about what could happen, or whatever it is, right? All these fears, they're not based in presence. They're based in thought. Yeah? And the more we see that, and the more we clear those traumas, and the more we address those traumas, and the more we feel the pain that we've been avoiding and feel the emotions we've been avoiding, the more we realize presence actually takes care of itself. Nothing needs to change about sensations, feelings. Nothing needs to change at all. The more that happens, the more we really start to see that natural, like I said earlier, that natural cadence of reality, of presence coming forward. And we can just live that cosmic symphony, that kind of cosmic energetic symphony of reality. When non-dual realization comes online, it's much easier because it's kind of always here. Yeah. That's a bit of a double-edged sword though, because if there's a significant amount of trauma left, like that gets very intense because it just comes up and you can't avoid it and you have to deal with it and you have to face it and feel it. But you will settle into that too. And at some point it can be totally healed. And then that attunement that natural meditation teaches us, that shikantaza teaches us, the attunement to presence, the attunement to natural flow, natural rhythm, all of that is felt in the most visceral way. It's felt in the most direct way, more direct than anything that has any personal reflection. It's just here. And you could say it's through the body sense, but even without a sense of body boundaries, center, edge. And this is what I mean when you feel natural cycles ongoing. You just feel energetic cycles, energetic interplay among energetic bodies that we might call objects. And it's not happening in space and it's not happening in time. and it's totally intimate. This is totally available to anybody. Yeah. And then it's the energetic version of what early on in meditation feels like the conscious version of shikantaza, the conscious version of natural meditation. Now it's a completely embodied, felt, lived experience, and not just your body. It's not like I'm a body moving through a world. The whole body world universe is doing this. It's just naturally expressing cleanly, effortlessly, and not for someone. It's not doing it for anyone. It's also not doing it to help you avoid fears or get out of the trap of always running from the fear of loss of safety. It's not doing it to help you with any of that. It's just doing it. It's just doing what it does. It's just appearing out of nothingness. And it's beautiful. It's so freeing. It's endlessly freeing. The freedom, again, right here is from the freedom from thought, from all those paradigms, all those fixation points, is because of the full onness of this presence that will liberate you. At some point, with time and with trust and with doing the work, you're going to have to do some shadow work and all that. And I can use these words to describe this natural cadence, this energetic cadence, and so forth. It's quite a thing, but the words are so inadequate for it because it's not something there's no way I can describe it, because even if I did describe it accurately, it's changed instantaneously into something else in a way. It's endlessly in flux, and there's no resistance to the flux. There's no resistance to the fluctuation, the movement, the integration and disintegration, which are in total harmony all the time. In harmony all the time and expressing uniquely through conditions that are constantly changing. It's wonderful, but it's indescribable. So yeah, no map is going to get you there. Like no mental map is going to get you to what I'm talking about. It's more like just a willingness and openness to surrender to what is happening right now, and to inhabit the relative in a skillful way when necessary. Meaning, if something comes up that feels like shame or guilt or a serious fixation around a relationship issue that's just happened over and over and over and over in your life, like deal with it in the relative world. Don't tell yourself, oh, there's nothing there, it's all energy, or that's just not going to help, right? That's just using, again, this is why the words don't work, because that's just using words in your mind to try to recreate something that you may have experienced once or you've heard someone say, and trying to use that to just bypass feeling something. You got to go down into it fully. That's how you realize this, that because this wordless cadence of reality, however you want to say it, it doesn't avoid anything. It doesn't shy away from anything. Death, pain, color, shape, form, sound, sensation. It just doesn't back off. It doesn't need to. It's all of that. It's already all of that, right? So that's a really, really good news, because it's going to lead you where you need to go. But I just caution a little bit. Don't get too absolute about this. Don't get stuck in the absolute of like, there's no one to do anything. There's no need to do shadow work because only the me could do shadow work, or if you tell yourself that kind of thing, you're just delaying the inevitable. You're wasting your time. Don't do it. Feel it, deal with it, work with it, open to it, surrender to it, find a way to do the shadow work, however that is, and anyone who watches this channel knows my stuff. We're always trying to incorporate more circling, deep shadow process, and it works. It really works. And the more awake people are, the quicker it is what I find. It really does, because people who are awake can get down into the somatics quickly. It can be intense and surprising, but it works. So this is the caution I give you about all of this, is like, I know you can resonate with what I'm saying. Many people here live this, but you can resonate with what I'm saying. You can feel the truth of this. I'm sure that when I say this non-dual crystal clarity of presence is always available. And I know you can feel that. And anything that's obstructing it's going to be shown to you. Don't overlook it. Just do the work. Even if it's uncomfortable as hell for a while, for a few months, a couple years, it may be. It's going to be. Not constantly, but you're going to have, usually after an awakening, you're going to have a handful of years of some challenges. You'll be functional, but it's going to be intense at times, and it's going to be surprising at times, and you're going to go back to the places that your mind was always staying identified with thoughts to avoid. So do that work. Be willing to do that work, and this does not have to be rocket science, and it doesn't have to be so obscure that you don't know where to go or what to do. Yeah, it's all available for you. And again, it's about trusting presence. Presence knows where to go. It knows what to show you. It doesn't shy away from anything. It just doesn't. And sometimes we wish it would, but it doesn't. And that's really, really good news, or else enlightenment wouldn't be possible.